I draw the clock. So to draw the clocks, the simplest way I could think of is what you see here. So you go through the array, and if all you need to do is go through an array or an array list, keep that enhanced for loop in mind. It's your friend. So this way I can draw them all. I've seen someone. Let me take this out here. Now I want to spend a couple of minutes on this. So some people started, in which is not an unreasonable way. They say I is 0, I less than clocks dot size I plus plus, and then they said clocks dot draw like this. Oh, and I. So what's wrong with it? Semicolon. Yeah. Oh, this would make such a great exam question. Huh? What's that? The graphics part has to go somewhere, right? And but let me try to give you a somewhat systematic way on how one can look at an expression like that and see if it makes sense. Because what I've seen those folks do is they then try to fix it, and it didn't work, and then they tried another random fix, and they tried another random fix. And the problem with that strategy is it's ineffective. That nowadays you know so many different things. There's so many different things that you could try that you don't have the time to explore them all. So it's worth having a systematic approach. So here's how you look at something like that. You look at clocks, and you have to ask yourself, what is the type of clocks? It's an object of what type?
Wait, what?
Array list. Excellent. Yes, it's an array list. Okay. So clocks is an array list. Okay. What method does an array list have? A draw method?
No.
It doesn't, right? An array list. Give me a method on an array list.
Get.
Excellent. Get. Right. So get would be a method. All right. So I can't draw the array list correctly, and if you think about it, that makes sense. Because how would you draw an array list? It's just a container. So what do I want to draw? I'm letting I go from 0 from 0 to the size minus 1. What do I want to draw? Okay, so you say I want to draw so you say I dot draw. Okay, same question. What's the type of I? Yes. Yes and yes. So it's an int. Does an int have a draw method? No. Okay. What do I want to draw? Okay. So he says clocks dot get I. So let's try that up here. Actually, let me just write it out. So he says clocks dot get I. Dot draw. Okay, now let's see. What's the type of clocks dot get I? What's the type?
It's a clock.
It's a clock. Exactly. Does a clock have a draw method?
Yes.
It does indeed. Now, why is it still complaining about the I? I want to draw G2. Now you have to ask yourself, so now we've gotten ourselves into that we have a correct method, but now the parameter type is wrong, because the type here is, of course, an int. And does draw want an int? Draw surely doesn't want an int. What would it do with it? So now you have to look up what draw needs. It needs a G2. So we'll put that in. So when you find yourself randomly rearranging these components to beat it into submission, and it didn't get into submission after 15 seconds, in the 16th second, start asking yourself, what are the types of the various things? What is the type of this? What is the type of that? What method does it expect? Because otherwise it takes too long. You know, I've watched these folks for about 2 minutes fussing with it, and in the exam you don't have those 2 minutes. So ask yourself, what are the types? Okay, so now I did it in the more mundane way, and that'll work too. Here are my clocks. Okay, what's the next step? The next step was in the clock class.
I think it's
Step 3.
colored clock.
Okay, oh no, they make a new class, colored clock. Oh, they're making me work. Okay, new Java class, colored clock. Here it is. So it extends clock. Okay, and presumably I should actually make a colored clock. So in my clocks component, I'm going to add colored clocks. So over here I'm going to add one clock and one colored clock. Is that what we're supposed to do?
Yeah.
Ah, excellent. Okay. Okay, I run it. It is not colored because I didn't do anything. Exactly.
Well, you need to type color.
Okay.
Clock.
Well, I mean, she's of course perfectly right. I didn't do anything at all. And so let's look at colored clock again. Colored clock has nothing in it at all that would say that it's colored. So it says, of course, nothing has changed because you didn't do anything. So I'm going to start doing something. So now I'm getting all these wiggly underlines. What can I do about them?
I gotta import a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and so I'm not going to import. I'm too important to import. I'm going to have NetBeans imported for me.
How do you do it again?
I click on the light bulb and I click on the import. Okay. Now it's all looking ugly, so we say source format, and now it's all looking pretty. Excellent.
It didn't do for me.
Okay, the word take note. It didn't do it for him.
Oh.
All right. Now, why does it draw a square like this? So why isn't it drawing a clock? Why is it drawing a square and not a clock?
Because you need to override the
So over here, what does the code actually do? It sets G2 to yellow, it fills the thing, and it sets it back to black. Well, that was super helpful. So it actually did draw the square here. But I still have to draw the clock. How do I draw the clock? Yes. Super to the rescue. Super draw G2. And here's my clock. Okay, so calling super is the thing. And
Real quick, can you go back to the component method?
yes,
I still couldn't get to the yellow square.
did you
No, mine.
No, the component.
the component?
Yeah, not the color clock, the clock component.
Yeah.
No, I put exactly that. Clock 2, the colored clock.
For some reason I did.
Okay, I'll have to have a look at it later. All right. Now the next step is we want to call get hours to get the current hours,
Oh, this is clock. So this is a color clock.
and
Oh, what's color clock?
then we want to change the background. All right. So that's here.
Oh, I made it interface.
No,
not a
clock,
class.
color clock. Okay, so over here we don't always want yellow. Sometimes we want blue, and so we call get hours.
Yeah.
How do you call get hours? How do you call get hours? Actually, you don't have to call super because we're not overriding it. You can just call get hours. So if get hours is what, less than 12? Help me out.
Yeah.
Less than 13.
Less than 13?
I thought it's less than 18 exclusive,
Okay.
but greater than 6 inclusive.
Oh, really?
Greater than or equal to.
Yeah, so
Like this?
yeah.
Okay. Oops. Oh, I see. Then I have to declare it outside. So this is a bit of a technical hassle. So I first declare it, then I say it's yellow, else. Okay. Okay. So it doesn't matter, right? Blue. Okay, and now the trouble is, of course, when I'm going to run it, well, it's yellow, so how do I know if I did it right? So I change the time, and it says, unfortunately, you have to wait, so let's override the update method. So let's see, where was the update method? That must have been, oh, I'm supposed to override it?
Yeah.
Okay, and it says how to do it, so I'm just going to copy and paste. Okay. Well, that's not going to work. I see. So now it says compile, and it's not going to work. Let me format. Why is it not working? Private, yeah, exactly. It's the private stuff here, right? So how do I get to the hours? Well, I got to the hours before by calling get hours, so surely I can do that again. Right? Okay. So now I got the hours, but how do I set the hours? I had the same problem with the bank account. How did I manage to update in the savings account? How did I manage to update the bank account? Let's go to that slide. So in the bank account, in savings account example, I wanted to, so here I called super.deposit, right? Because the bank account, to update, I use deposit. So can I use deposit over here? Oops. Can I say deposit? Why not? It's a clock, right? You can't deposit something into a clock. It's not a piggy bank.
The batteries.
So how do I figure it out? And so the only way to find out is to actually now go and look at what does the clock class do.
Why don't you use type?
So let's look at the clock class. Don't despair. What does the clock class have? It has a constructor. That's not going to do me any good. It has update. It says something with Gregorian calendar. I don't have a clue what that does. It has get hours. Well, that worked to get the hours. It has set hours. Is that going to help me? Yeah.
Couldn't you have typed in the object and I'll show you the method?
Yeah, except you don't know how to type this particular object because this object has no name. Because I'm calling it on myself.
Okay.
So the solution was to actually read through the class. So we'll call set hours, and that'll work. So let's run it. And it's blue. So I have to explain to you where update comes in. Once a second, the thing calls update. All right.
Well, I have problems with
So, and now, I want everyone to pay close attention, and I can't tell you why, so pay attention anyway. So, I want to trace through what exactly happens when update gets called. I want to find out when update gets called, and update gets called once a second, exactly which methods of which class get called. Okay, and you will know in about a week why I'm asking this question. So the question that I'm going to ask is, as I trace through the call to update, exactly which methods of which class get called. So let's find out where update originates. It was in clock, right? So someone's going to call update. Let's find out who calls update. It's not in here. Update is called in clock's component. No, it's called in clock viewer apparently. I know. Hang on. Help me out here. Where's update get called?
In clock too.
Once you import, how come mine?
Oh, I see. I got it. Okay, so update is called inside draw.
Oh, you set this.
Yes. Okay, I was wrong about the ones a second. So when we call draw, we call update. So
No wonder.
let's get started here. So we call draw, we call update. So we look at this. We have a colored clock. There was, let's say, C2. We call C2.draw on some graphics context, and it calls update. Well, actually does it. First of all, which draw does it call?
So you don't even set this.
So there's two draw methods. There's one in clock, and there's one in colored clock.
Find that.
Which of them does it call?
Rolling clock.
Colored.
Okay, so so the rule is that when you have a method that's defined both in a superclass and in a subclass, it calls the one that matches the object on which you call it. So is C2 a clock or a color clock? It's a color clock. Do you call the clock method or the colored clock method? The colored clock method, right? So the colored clock method gets called. So you know what? I'm gonna put up a piece of note paper for that. Hang on.
Here's the blue. Yeah, here's the color blue. I'm gonna make it separate.
So we call colored clock dot draw. So that's the first method call. Now let's look at colored clock dot draw. Okay, now I'm much obliged if my mouse would work.
What? Here it's No, I know, because I changed it.
Wretched thing.
It's called color clock.
Okay, now my mouse has died. Okay, now we're back. Okay, colored clock dot draw. So here's color clock dot draw. So now we're going to call get hours. That's the next call in here. Which get hours? So let me go to my note paper here. So I'm going to write number 2 is get hours. And which get hours?
Do you want super?
What are my choices?
Clock. And clock, is it clock and color clock?
Yes. So those are the only two classes that I have in my inheritance hierarchy, right? I have a superclass clock, and I have a subclass color.
I'm assuming it's clock that get hours because I don't, does colored clock even have a get hours method?
Ah, excellent. So that's entirely correct. Color clock does not have a get hours method. We never overrode get hours, so it has to be the one inside clock. Okay. So it is clock.getHours. Okay, moving right along. Then we're not interested in these. Now it says super.draw. Which method gets called now? So we know the method is going to be called draw. So it's number 3. One day I will understand this program. Okay. Number. Okay, this is just not working out. So we'll just have to talk through it. Which one is it now? Which method is being called now? So we're in super.draw.
He's calling clock.
So what's the name of the method? What's the name of the class? The method is draw. That was pretty easy to see because it says .draw. What's the name of the class? It's got to be clock, right?
Oh, clock.
So the correct answer is clock and draw. If I could just get control of my computer back. I don't know why this stuff is almost not working. This is totally frustrating. Yeah, I think. Okay, now, okay. 3 is clock dot draw. Okay, so now we're in clock dot draw, and that is over here. Clock dot draw calls update. Okay. Which update does it call? So then I'm in clock.draw. So now it calls update. Which update does it call?
From what class are you at?
Yes.
The clock class?
So you say it calls clock.update. Why?
Because in the draw method in the clock class there's the update.
Okay. Let's first of all find out where do we have updates method. You're absolutely right that we have an update method here. Do we have an update method in color clock? Do we or do we not? We do. So it's not an idle question which one is called. What's the rule? How do you know when you have a method call where the method exists both in the super and in the subclass? You have to look at the object, and what do you have to ask the object?
What are you?
Exactly. What is your type? So, which object are we going to call update on? The hard part is, when you look at it in the code, you don't actually see it. See, in the code it just says update, there's no dot to the left. So we have to ask ourselves, how did we get into this scenario in the first place? And if you recall, all the way at the top, we called C2 dot draw, where C2 was a colored clock. So on which object is draw and get hours, and the other draw and update being called?
What'd you ask?
What is it today?
What odds? I don't know.
On which object is draw, get hours, update being called?
Isn't it from clock? 'Cause color clocking.
On which object? What is the name of the object?
Oh.
C2.
Yeah.
All right. So this thing actually is called on C2. Everything is called on C2. So now let's ask C2 a very personal question. What is your type? Okay. So which update is being called?
Color?
What is color clock?
Yes. So as you make this tracing through, and you step from one method to the next, you always have to keep in mind, what is the method called on? In this case, we started out with the colored clock, and so all of those methods are called on colored clock objects. And so over here we have the method names, and in this column here we have the names of the classes. And so it says colored clock here because we called it on a colored clock. It says colored clock here because we called it on a colored clock. Why does it say clock in these two cases? Why doesn't it always say colored clock? So in the first one here, remember, I think you pointed out why this was so. So why is it clock here and not colored clock?
Color clock doesn't have to get hours.
Exactly, because colored clock did not have a get hours. In that case, it has no choice. It has to go up the hierarchy until it finds a class that has a get hours. Now, in this one here, it says clock.draw and not colored clock.draw. Why?
That was the draw inside the draw inside the color clock.
And
And then,
why doesn't it say colored clock here? Where does this draw come from?
it comes from the clock.
What does it say specifically? Find the code where this draw calls this draw.
Oh, the super dot draw G2.
Super! Right? We explicitly made a call to super, and that turned off the colored clock and went back into the clock. So there are two reasons why it might not be the same class of the object. Reason number one, if the current class doesn't actually have the method, then you have to climb up in the hierarchy. Reason number two, because you used super. In all other cases, it's going to have the same class. All right, let's keep going. So colored clock update. We're now in colored clock update, which is here. Colored clock update calls super.update. Okay, so we're calling update. That's step number 5. On which class? Yes, because we just called it through super. Okay, let's go through this update method here. This is in clock.update. And it doesn't call any other methods on us. It just sets hours, minutes, and seconds to the current time. So we're in good shape here. So now we're at the end of this update, which brings us to the end of where is it? Update. Colored clock. Yeah, this update. So now done with this update. So now we're calling get hours. So let's put that on our sheet. Get hours. So So that's step 6. On which class are we calling get hours?
Clock line?
You know that. I want someone else to.
Oh,
Okay, why?
it doesn't have get hours.
Yes. Excellent. That's exactly right. Okay, there's no get hours in color clock. And then the same thing with set hours. So what you're seeing here is I was tracing through a particular call. That call contained other calls inside the same hierarchy. And then I was asking myself exactly which one is called. The rule is pretty simple. Find out what the object is that's being called on. In this case, it was a covered clock object. Find out whether the methods exist in both classes, in which case you have to figure out which one of them it is. If it's only in one class, then of course there's only one answer. If it is in both classes, then it's always the class that matches my object here, with the one exception if the call contained the magic word super. And then it goes up in the hierarchy. So it's important that one knows this, because if you don't know how the program works, then it's magic, you can't understand it. So this kind of tracing is considered an important exercise. It is something that you want to be able to do. So here's my strong suggestion, that you try to do this on your own with this example and with one other example. Where are you going to get another example from?
Another lab maybe, or
Did we have another lab with inheritance?
online? Is there any is there coding map inheritance?
No. Yeah?
We've used the book.
Don't use the. That would be a terrible idea, and you might wear it out, and it might lose its resale value. No, by all means, go to the book and look at the example with the bank account and the savings account and the checking account, and make that same tracing. Make a table. Pick the demo program, the one that does a couple of deposits and withdrawals, and make that table, and trace through and say exactly which thing is being called. You will be glad you did it. Okay, if you have trouble getting started with that, put a question on Desire to Learn, and I'll be glad to put you in the right direction. So that's considered an important thing to be able to do. It's kind of the equivalent of tracing loops. When we trace loops, we do that to demonstrate understanding of a loop, and also to be able to debug a loop when it doesn't seem to be doing the right thing. And here it's the same thing with tracing these sequences of calls. When the thing doesn't really quite do the right thing, then you've got to be able to know what calls what in order to be able to debug your programs. All right. So as it turns out, that was exactly what I wanted to get across today. This technique of tracing these calls. Does anyone have a question about how this might work? Yes.
Yeah, well, no, I just asked, I guess, a question for my program.
Okay.
I still can't get past.
Okay, I'll have to look. If it's just that I can't get past, I'll have to just look at the
Yeah.
screen. All right. Let's see where we're at here. All right. Then I think what we should do is spend another 20 minutes on the lab, or so, a half hour, and then we'll get together through the lab and see what that might mean for the final. All right. So when you go back to the lab, and we'll regroup in a half hour.